We are optimistic. We're positive in our mindset. We're excited about chiropractic. We're excited to reach people with our practice, with chiropractic awesomeness. Excited to build an exceptional life of being productive, prosperous, generous, while filled with love, fitness, and fun. Our purpose is to become smarter, more powerful, capable, driven, and superior versions of ourselves by ever increasing our awareness, our knowledge, our understanding, our motivation, our hands-on skill, communication skill, and our mastery in the art of exceptional living. We only have so many years. Got to make them exceptional. Every single podcast causes us to naturally attract more new and high-value cases, makes us more capable of motivating and persuading people to making great health decisions, empowers us to make smarter long-term decisions, and of course, we are energized physically, mentally, and financially. Think about that for a second. Energized means we're excited. We have energy about how we're taking care of ourselves physically and our 5 factors of health. And if you're not sure what the 5 factors of health are, well, then you should join immediately, because our entire life revolves around the 5 factors of health. Everything that we stand for with our patients revolves around the 5 factors of health. Everything we teach revolves around the 5 factors of health. Anytime you're talking with outsiders, or you're in a company, or doing a screening, or in promotion, or in video, social media, it's going to be dealing with one of the 5 factors of health. So, of course, we have to be on top of our game with that. And then mentally and financially. Financial health. What is that? What is financial health? It's reported that around 60+% of a human being's happiness comes from simply being able to cover your bills. If you can cover your bills, that is the majority of a person's happiness. Because if you cannot cover your bills, the stress, the feeling of obligation, the effect on self-esteem, the effect on self-worth, the feeling of negative momentum versus positive momentum. So financial health begins by being able to cover your expenses work-wise and your expenses personal-wise. Now, this can be very deceiving. Is a chiropractor who has yet to start paying on their student loans, but they're covering all their bills, is that chiropractor financially healthy? And the answer is no, because they're not covering all their bills. They're hiding from some of their bills. They're avoiding some of the bills that they obligated themselves to and that you owe. Somebody trusted you enough to loan you the money for your education. Of course you want to pay it back. You want to pay it back. They wanted to loan it to you. Now you want to pay it back. Isn't that a fair deal? Do you like things that are fair? Do you like people to be fair with you? Do you like people to be fair with you in business, with patients, family, friends, interactions? Referee in a game where you may participate? Do you want people to be fair with you? Well, then you have to be fair with other people, right? Or do you have one of the mental diseases that plague society today where I want people to be fair with me, but I don't want to be fair with them? I want them to be on time for me, otherwise I get mad, but I want to be able to show up whenever I want with them. I want people to pay me on time, but I want to be able to be sloppy with my payments to other people. I want people to be devoted and loyal to me, but I want to run around and do whatever I want because I'm so awesome. See, do you really want fairness. One of the hallmarks of high-level success as a human being is understanding the concept of fairness, acknowledging it, and playing within that framework of integrity. So financial health starts when you look at all of your expenses and you're making full payments on all obligations and you have a little bit of money left over to live. You are now financially healthy versus financially unhealthy or behind. You see? Now, we want to become extremely financially healthy, and at the other extreme, we use the term flush. Sometimes, in extremes, it's called being flooded with cash. You have hardly any debt, you have a ton of income, you've got investments that produce more income, you have a lifestyle that doesn't require much income, so you just have more money coming at you than you really have need for or that you desire to spend. Now, some of you out there think, well, I'll show you how to spend it. Yeah, and that's why you're broke. That's why you're a brokey, as some people say. I look at my life, more money will not really change anything in my life. I've got the killer house, I've got the place in Florida, I got the cool boat, things I'm able to do, where I'm able to go. There's nothing more I really want. Adding more money into my life really does not change my life other than it adds more responsibility. And remember our saying, owning more stuff only wastes my time, creates hassles, and takes me off track in my life. The point I'm getting at here is you can get to the point where you have more money coming in than you need, and so you are growing your prosperity at an increasing rate. So it's covering all of your bills and having a little bit left over. There's the starting point, all the way to becoming flush, you might say. Money in this account, money in that account, money coming in from here, money coming in from there, increasing income. See that? And everything in between. And you know where you are on this scale. Winner's Edge Consulting exists to do everything possible for the chiropractor so they can increase the level they are at on the financial health scale. Period. A great report of findings, great referrals, being a great employer, being great at promotion, great treatment time, clinical excellence, reputation, your image. All of these things are done to provide a superior service in the marketplace, which then, due to the laws of exchange, will bring you money, which we call collections. And from the collections, we have to pay overhead. You're not part of the overhead. And so after all the business expenses, we have what's left over. And that is your gross income. And then you have to pay tax. And that's what I'm going to spend a few minutes on here today. Very interesting talk for you today. After the tax is paid, you end up with your money, what you made. Remember now, what you made is what is left over after overhead and your ability to manage overhead, and tax and your ability to manage tax. Because you see here, that's how you end up with what you made within the rules of the game. You see that? Everybody's so confused. They talk about making money and they're looking at their gross salary or they're looking at what they collect. All that matters is the real amount that goes into a checking account that you can spend. That is the real usable dollar amount. Net income after tax, after overhead. Okay? After tax, after overhead, all right? Now, I want to spend a couple minutes and talk about taxes because basically none of you know how taxes work. All you know is that you have to pay federal. Most states you got to pay a state tax. You have a few other things that come out of your paycheck. I just want to focus on the biggie, federal tax, federal income tax. Now, of course, federal income taxes are basically criminal. And they are a control tool to keep people subservient, keep people low, and basically rob people of their efforts. Why is it that if you work 40 hours a week, you may pay 10% tax, and I work 40 hours a week, but I will have to pay 37% of my money toward tax? If you work harder and you put in more time, effort, and energy, you get punished. You literally get punished. If it's 10% for everybody, and a guy made $1 million a year, if it's 10% for everybody, and somebody made $1 million a year, they already have to pay $100,000 compared to someone who might pay $20,000. They already pay more because it is a percentage. So why would the percentage itself increase? Well, they're rich and that's what poor people say. Poor people think the people that are better than them and smarter than them should somehow be punished, and it's all because they feel bad that somebody else was better than you or more productive than you or smarter than you. So there's a hatred toward people that outdo us. And that, of course, is another corruption of the mind. And it's crazy because I will promise you, if you are doing well and you have an income of $1 million, you're going to realize, why would I get punished for putting in all this time, all this effort, all the sacrifice, all the bumps, all the bruises, all the scars, all the embarrassment, all the rip-offs, all the employees, all of this, all of it to get there? And then, by doing all that, yay, you get to pay 37% instead of 22%. So it's criminal, but that doesn't matter. You can't change it. They have the big guns, and they have their police force, which is called the FBI, the local police, to enforce their collection agency, which is called the IRS. So we on the farm, which is called the United States, as the cattle, we have to pay. And you can try to avoid it all you want, but we have to be very smart. Now I have an angle here I want to share with you in a couple minutes. I'm venting here a little bit, but I don't have to tell you this if you're a high performer. Okay, some of you aren't paying enough in taxes yet to see how punishing it really is and how you feel when you've worked really hard and you get punished for it. Now observe, here's what I'm getting at. If you make up to $11,000 a year, you pay 10%. If you go from $11,000 a year to $44,725 a year, it's 12%. Now watch this. $1 over $44,725, it jumps to 22%. You have to pay 10 more percent in tax. It went from 10% to 12% to 22%. The crushing of humanity here by very, very evil people. Completely doing this on purpose to try and break your back and get you to give up, like most of the weak humanity who I call the ants all running around in society. This is why with chiropractic assistants, this is why with staff, if their income gets over $44,726, this is as of within the last year, They owe 10% more in tax on those dollars. Now that's up to $95,375. After $95,000, it goes from 22 just to 24, a 2% click. How is that it works that way? Why does it go from 10% to 12%, then to 22%, and then from 22 to 24? Well, when you have the big guns, the missiles, the FBI, the police force, the Secret Service, the CIA, well, you can make people do whatever you want because they have the power to grab you at gunpoint and put you in prison and keep you there. They own the system that we play in. So we have to figure this out and play and win by the rules. Next. After $182,000, it goes to 32%. $182,000 to $231,000. $231,000 in income up to $578,000 is 35%. And then if your taxable income, this is what you have after overhead, your taxable income after deductions is over $578,000, you owe 37%. Now, what I want to share with you, and I didn't know this until recently, and I printed this, has the IRS insignia at the top. You pay tax as a percentage of your income in layers called tax brackets. As your income goes up, the tax rate on the next layer of income is higher. When your income jumps to a higher tax bracket, you don't pay the higher rate on your entire income. You pay the higher rate only on the part that's in the new tax bracket. So, if you make and have a taxable income of $600,000, the first $11,000 is taxed at 10%, $11,000 to $44,000 is taxed at 12%, $44,000 to $95,000 is at 22%, $95,000 to $180,000 is 24%, the $180,000 to $231,000 that you earned is taxed at 32%, from $231,000 your income up to $578,000, that dollar amount is taxed at 35%, and anything above the $578,000 is now at 37%. It is not 37% on the entire pile, although I'm sure they would like to have it be that way. So what I'm arriving at here is how taxes are without any question the biggest expense you will ever have as a business owner if you're generating any money. In other words, my tax is bigger than all rent, more expensive than any employees, and I mean by multiples. You get the idea? So if you collected $500,000 in a year and your overhead was $250,000, you owe tax on $250,000. So there's the federal tax, possibly a state tax, okay, there's the Medicare and all that kind of stuff, all right? Okay, you're going to owe like $100,000 in tax. Well, your rent for the year is not $100,000. And even a couple great CAs normally will not be $100,000 for the year. So it's the biggest expense that you have. And this is where we want to make sure we are very, very smart, not only in staying current with taxes. The most common thing that chiropractors get behind on is they have past due tax because they have a horrible money flow system, because they are unorganized, because they haven't sat behind a desk in the quiet and worked out how to make sure their taxes are current. If your taxes are not current right now, you will never grow because you cannot handle what you already have. Well, my taxing is kind of sloppy and I still owe for this and I got to talk to my accountant. If that's the conversation that you have, well, you're lost. Lost people don't get big dollar amounts. But if you sit there and say, my taxes are automated, they're always current, it comes out of this account and it goes there and it's systematic, well then you actually have an opportunity to handle more money because you've proven you can handle what you already have. Now, I'm not going to talk about the Winner's Edge tax paying system, which is a component of the entire Winner's Edge money flow system. I just want to mention this as the players on your team. Quick story. I've told this before, so I'll be brief. In around the year 2004, I had who I thought was a great accountant. It seemed like the amount I was paying in taxes was reasonable. I even remember one chiropractor saying, I don't know what you're doing, Tory, because I'm writing big checks to the IRS. I go, well, I'm not really writing any big checks. And I just thought it's because I had some genius accountant. Then it got 2005, 2006, 2007. And I get a letter from the IRS saying, hey, send us the information for these marketing expenses that are listed on your tax return. I sent him what I had, which wasn't nearly the amount that had been put on my tax return. I then got a notice that I owed $182,000 in unpaid federal tax. Then the state of Minnesota got wind, and they said, and you owe us $50,000 in unpaid state tax. $232,000 due like in a week. I get a hold of my accountant, who doesn't return my calls, doesn't return my emails. What this accountant had done is literally guess at every number on the tax return, never looked at any of the receipts, was too busy. Of course, you are that busy when you're making sure everybody pays hardly any tax. Of course, you become a popular accountant. Okay? So this accountant basically just guessed at all the numbers. Not a single number for the collections for the month, 12 numbers added up for a total. Every one of them was a guesstimate. Okay? And there was an accountant that I'd met at a chiropractic seminar that kind of would say, Tory, how are your taxes going? Oh, everything's great. How much you paying? Oh, like this. And he would just say, something's wrong. And I go, oh, no, I got a genius accountant. And he would just kind of shake his head. Well, that's who I had to call. And luckily, because I developed a relationship with him, I had to pay a huge retainer, and he went to work. I gave a power of attorney that he could get to the IRS to say, wait, I'm on it, we're going to fix this. And he had to go back and do financial statements every month for me for 3 years. I had to send him every receipt and everything for 3 years, the last 3 years. Do you have all your office supply receipts from 3 years ago? Your marketing expenses from 3 years ago? All your rent statements from 3 years ago? All your cell phone and power bill statements from 3 years ago? And I ended up having to pay the money and the penalties and the interest, but I avoided a lot of bigger problems that could have happened from not getting this fixed. Now, here's what happened in addition. Not only did I owe in the past, but all of my withholdings were incorrect. So I needed to start paying more tax right now. At the same time, I needed to take all the money I could to pay the past due balance. Do you see how this devastates you? And it breaks you for that entire year. Because you got to take whatever money you have, and on top of that, they're taking out 2 or 3 times as much for tax now. at the time you need the money to pay what you owe. It's compounding in a devastating way, a bankruptcy level way. And I was able to get that squared away. I actually had a lawsuit against that accountant for these blatant errors. This accountant did not even have an insurance policy in place, and it was the squirreliest thing you ever saw. And it made me realize how you never ever have non-super professional, non-super credible people as part of your team. And that's what the story was leading into, is you have a team. You, and of course the expert consultant, me, and then a really good accountant, okay? And then you want to know all kinds of people. You want to know a website person. You want to know a drywaller, an electrician, a plumber, a good dentist. You want a good vet possibly. You want to have a cadre of all the experts you may need for anything in your life. One interesting person that could be added in here also at the high levels is a tax strategy expert, because accountants are not tax strategy experts. Okay? They are just the person that does the payroll, does the returns, does the forms, but they are not tax attorneys. They are not strategy experts. They can't be. They are too busy to be. A tax strategy expert who might be able to save you 50% of what you're paying in tax or 25% of what you're paying in tax. The tax strategy expert is the one who then indicates to your accountant what numbers to use. The accountant is the one who does all the filing and does all the forms. Just like you have me, the practice strategy consultant, giving you direction, the tax strategy experts give the accountant direction as part of your high-performance team. Just check this out. If you were able to save $1,000 a month in tax over a 20-year period of time, that would add up to be around $700,000. If you're a higher performer and you were able to save $4,000 a month in tax that you're not paying, because the accountant just does it, they're conservative, they're safe, they're not strategy experts. But if you had an expert and they said, hey, you can do this and that, and this is all legal, and we have the precedent and the case law to back it all up, you can pay $4,000 less. Over 20 years, that's $2.5 million. That's your entire retirement just from tax savings alone. What's my whole point here with this particular training? Well, here at Winner's Edge, as the practice management expert, we have who we recommend for tax strategy to make sure that you're keeping as much money as possible. And then, of course, we have the money flow and investing strategy so that you can grow assets and generate passive income. That is assets that without you lifting a finger, ever making a phone call, having to look at or hardly do anything, investments that automatically reinvest, they automatically compound, because your time is very expensive, so you cannot be taking any time. And they compound in such a way that in the future, you end up what? Flooded with money, because you have dividends and growth coming at you faster than you need it. Because, of course, your debt is paid off, you don't owe any money, and you have this passive income coming in, and many of you might still be working. Then you can be generous and do unbelievable things in your life. So here's the closing point. You have a core of experts on your team. You, me, the accountant, ideally a tax strategy expert, and then, of course, all the other experts that you want to know for anything that you may need. all of those working together. Notice there's no husband in there, there's no wife, there's no dad, there's no brother. These need to be neutral, objective, highly credible, high integrity professionals that have a fiduciary sort of role. In other words, they have to tell you the truth regardless of whether there is or isn't any benefit to them. They are neutral in their opinion so that you can make great long-term decisions financially that impact you, your family, and of course what? Your ability to create the ultimate chiropractic life. Tory out!